let's talk about the striker position. You lost the top two guys who received the bulk of playing time, and Gibbons and McDonald. At least Jaxson Campbell is the lone guy that was on the depth chart last season that's returning. What do you got going on at the striker position, Ricky?
Okay. So we have Jaxson Campbell. All right. We have Riley Bergeson. We have Jay Sean McLean. Okay. We have Luke Lawson, and we have Michael Mack. And a couple of those guys have been recruited at the striker position. A couple guys have transitioned that are some longer safeties to that position. And I think it's a good mix of guys in that room. I think there's a lot of athleticism in that room. It's there is no real returning starter there at all. So that part's really good. Greatest football player of all time, Tom Brady, was a 20-plus year starter, and he earned it every year. So there's never anyone who's quote unquote anointed, but just having all those foregone reps is a fantastic breath of fresh air for all those guys in the room, understanding that there's real competition there.
Did Jaxson Campbell's time as a defender or just solely on special teams last season?
He played a few reps. I want to say it was under 20 reps on defense, but Jaxson kind of made a name for himself on special teams. He was running down on kickoff, doing some good things for us. He was on KOR, made some good blocks for us there. He was on punt block, and he could be detached on a gunner. He could be attached to the box. I mean, he did some really good things for us. So that's I'm old school in that I love using special teams for development of young players. And for those guys to be able to bank those reps, like a Jay Sean McLean coming in as a freshman and getting to play some reps on kickoff, and getting a couple reps on kickoff return, and getting some reps on punt block. Those are spots, and it's always good when someone plays on defense, but they've already put a game jersey on, gotten it dirty, gotten grass stains, gotten blood on their jersey, albeit playing special teams, but they still know the speed and the rate at which the business of football is conducted on game day.
Kind of give us a little scouting report on Jaxson. What do you feel he does well? What does he still need to improve? That kind of thing.
Totally. Well, one of the things I think that he brings to the table is he was a recruited quarterback, and then he played some wide receiver. So he's got an offensive background. He had played safety, so he has a coverage aspect, but he's a highly competitive kid. So it's not like he's afraid of contact, wearing a different colored jersey as a quarterback. Like, he wants to strike, he wants to do those things. So that's the part that I like, is he understands how quarterbacks think. He understands a little bit of the perimeter blocking, having played wide receiver. He understands route concepts. And then he had last spring at safety, so he understands from top down kind of how our coverage goes.
So, I mean, being a converted safety, did you feel he needed to perhaps this off season bulk up a little bit so that he could handle playing in the box and taking on blockers?
He had moved right at the end of spring ball last year. So he had started some of that weight gain process. So he's been with me almost 365 days. So that part's been good, just from a strength and conditioning standpoint, and from, making sure he's getting his calories in. And, Jim Carizzi does a fantastic job with his guys down in the weight room. I mean, I think across the board, whether it's from the outside linebacker to our punter, I think you're going to see every single player on our team just continue to look bigger, faster, and stronger.
So some of the I think you mentioned Riley Bergeson. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Was he recruited as a striker, or is he a guy that's been moved?
So he was a safety at this time last year, and then I want to say maybe practice 5 or 6 he moved to striker, and Riley's coming off of a upper body injury. That's why he wasn't able to play last year, but he's 100% now, and he had a full off season program, so he's trending in the right direction. And he's doing a good job.
I'll say, how's he looking? He's showing you some things.
Absolutely, yeah. He Riley brings the same effort, attitude, and toughness every day to the football field, and to me, being a consistent player is one of the best compliments that you can give someone.
And lastly, what about Jaxson McClain? I think he's another converted safety, and I've heard Coach Newberry and Coach Volker talk about him in the past. I know he's a guy that they like and would like to see get on the field.
Yes, sir. He's okay. So he had just moved, kind of right before spring ball, and I think he's a good young player, and he's still getting used to being up on the line of scrimmage from that part, but it'll just be a matter of reps, because I think when you make the investment of reps in Jaxson, you're going to continue to see return, and he's bringing the right energy to practice, and you can see a couple times, whether it's him blitzing, whether it's him busting out into coverage, and he looks really comfortable doing both of those things.
All right, thanks a lot.
Pete, Coach, in your mind, what makes a good striker?
Okay, so you have to have, first off, I think length kind of helps you. It's like you've kind of seen that natural progression of like maybe a long recruited safety comes down and plays striker. So like just kind of that long arm type of guy that can help in any of those RPO windows with his length. But the other piece is you have to have the heady portion of it as well. You have to understand what the quarterback is thinking. You have to understand that kind of what that quarterback's progression is. You obviously, when it's true drop back pass, you want to play things high to low, and not quote unquote take the cheese. So it's a very cerebral position, but at the end of the day, we still call a striker a linebacker, so he's got to be ready and willing to strike.
Yeah. I guess it's no, coincidence then the bulk of those guys that you're talking about now competing at that spot all around that 6'1", 6'2" range, and exhibit some of the traits. In terms of moving positions, is that in your mind, is it a tough adjustment bumping down from safety down to that spot, or is it just each guy, maybe takes his own time and his own path?
I think some of it is there's a little bit of a plan and a process that Coach Newberry, Coach Volker, Coach Lewis, really, it's kind of our defensive profile. You might get safeties that could eventually one day become strikers. You look at Luke Pierce at Raider, he was a striker in the spring that we ended up moving a couple practices in the spring because we're like, gosh, this kid's got a big set of legs on him. We think he might grow into being that Raider. So there is a little, and then you kind of take it even a step up the chain. You get long corners that could eventually maybe play safety. So it's that kind of foresight by the head man, by the defensive coordinator, and then kind of we take the reins in recruiting, and we have those conversations.
Obviously, you'd be a good guy to ask this question. Surprised at all what Luke was able to do in that transition. to the other spot, and obviously a lot of contribution that he made last season.
Yeah, I think it speaks to the character probably to everyone in that room, especially at that position. You know, Jordan Sanders is starting, and Jordan Sanders has an injury, and Luke comes in, and we don't skip a beat there. And Luke played well, but like Jordan, in my opinion, Luke became a better player because Jordan was there pushing him, and Luke became a better player because, or excuse me, Jordan became a better player because Luke was pushing him as well. And then you talk about Dylan Spilios, who was traveling, and then you got a younger James Perkins, you got a Gavin Woods, you got Justice Ryder. Okay, so those are all guys that are building the room up, and they're trying to maximize reps. And you know, you can compete against the guys in your room at your position, but you still have to be their biggest fan and their biggest critic, trying to not have repetitive mistakes. So if Jordan made a mistake, my challenge is Luke, you don't physically have to make that mistake. You go benefit from Jordan's mistake, learn from it, you make another mistake, a new one, and then we'll all keep going along that path.
As coaches, how difficult is it when you all get in those meeting rooms and decide, hey, you know, player X, who might be in a different room right now, could be better, you know, at a different position, but at the same time, you've already invested time in him at another position. Just how difficult is that process when you all get together to talk about whether you are going to move a guy into a different spot and give him a chance to compete somewhere else?
Totally. And you know, one of the best things about this game is it's the ultimate team sport.
Right.
And you're trying to do it for the betterment of the team. So that's one of the things I'm very fortunate about. And I've known Coach Volker for 20 years, or for really 20 to 30 years. And you like working under him on defense is something that I'd always wanted to do, and the opportunity presented itself. And then you get with Coach Newberry, and you see the guys he assembled on the staff and the humility that they bring, and it truly is kind of all hands on deck to do what we all feel collectively is best for the team.
Awesome. Thanks, sir.
Yes, sir.
Wags.
So going back to Pierce, I mean, obviously it was a tremendous breakout season for him, and he played really well and was an impact player. Do you think he's only, you know, the tip of the iceberg we've seen in terms of what he can do? Do you see him really not ratcheting up another level this season?
Yeah. So I from our Raider position, both Luke and Jordan, kind of one of the things that I had talked to them about is we have to be more dynamic in the pass rush game. And we had been working it in the off season, and that's going to be a point of emphasis. Obviously, you have to earn the right to rush the passer. You got to knock out the run game first. But when it is time to rush the passer, I think there's a lot more meat on the bone for those guys in our room to go make some big plays to help our team out. I think you're muted, Wags.
Sorry. Do you talk about the depth at that position? You bring back all three guys who are on the depth chart, but you know, a guy like James Perkins, who's a very talented player, was there any discussion of maybe moving these guys so they can get on the field elsewhere since you're so stacked at Raider?
You know, the Raider position, there are times where maybe in like an academy game where kind of the outside backers are a little bit more mirrored or so. But kind of as we talked about how Luke went from striker to Raider, probably the next move would be like a Raider to a D end, if you will. So they'd have to put on some more weight and stuff like that.
Um, Coach Newberry was telling us that about something you've done with special teams where you drafted and had 4 teams. Can you explain to us exactly what that involves?
Sure. So we'll have a draft, and it's always at the end of winter conditioning. And then we'll have 4 captains. Okay. This year we had Eli Heidenreich, we had Justin Reed, Landon Robinson, and we had Riley Reithman. And they were captains, and they got to choose. And we kind of break the guys down in body types so that you can do all these different special teams competitions. So we kind of gave them the blueprint, if you will, like, okay, you need X amount of these body types, X amount of these body types, X amount of these body types. Okay, you guys go do it because you guys know them better than any of us. So it's a pretty cool competitive atmosphere for us. And every year that I've done it, you always, unearth diamonds in the rough. You always unearth guys, and it's a draft order, so it's at the end of the draft, and you got a couple guys that are upset about it, and football is a prove them right, prove them wrong game. So if you're picked last, like, you better prove some people wrong if you're upset, because if you prove them right, it just they obviously made the right choice. But every year that I've done it, there's always a guy or two that was picked late in the draft who ends up coming up and scores a bunch of points and does all this stuff. And then there's always a couple guys that get picked early, that kind of choke on the sugar a little bit.
So how many guys on each team, and what exactly are they competing in? How do you pile up points?
Oh, it's Coach Wimberly, Coach Cole, and myself, and we'll do these deals that we call combat deals, and it'll be like punt versus punt block, and it'll be like kickoff versus KOR, and you have to like get to this spot in a certain time, or stop someone from getting there in a certain time. So we got like stopwatches going like crazy, and it's actually some pretty spirited debate. So obviously, Coach Cole's a Cincinnati guy, so he and I usually see eye to eye on everything. But it's some good spirited debate, and I actually love watching the film with all the coaches, because we will watch a rep like 7 or 8 times. We're like, did he get there? All right, sure. All right, let's retime this deal. And then you're like, he didn't get there. And then you're like, all right, well, it's 1 versus 1. And then you end up timing it like 5 or 7 times. But the best part is when the kids will see, Coach, how the heck did I lose this rep? And you're like, dude, we timed that thing for like 15 minutes last night. So you can come in, and it's a good deal. And the kids are highly competitive with it, and I think they're having a good time with it.
So the competition lasts the entire spring?
Yeah, so we'll have we'll do like 8 competition days, so it'll be cool.
All right, thanks a lot.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Coach, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure you were at Cincinnati in 22 with Mason Fletcher, who could obviously punt the bejeeber out of the ball. What makes Riley Reithman so consistent in your mind watching him punt the football?
Yeah, I Riley had a goal of being the first team all conference punter, and he was able to attain that. And first and foremost, it's the guys in front of him protecting him, and getting everything set up for him to be able to drop that ball on his foot and change the game. Riley is a super, super, super high achieving person, not just on the football field. I mean, he's above, I want to say he's above a 3.9. I think he's a 3.94 GPA.
Yep.
Yep. Appreciate it, Strauss. You're always there whenever there's a fact check. But a couple of the internships that he does, the drive he has, he does a fantastic job in the things, the buckets where he puts his time. He really wants to excel and he wants to be great at. So he's super critical of himself, which is fantastic. He's a motivated guy, so he's a pleasure to coach. And you look at some of the other guys in that room, like a Kellen Gravide Peralta, like he's like, if Riley busts a shoelace, GDP's ready to go in there, and so on and so forth, kind of down the roster. It's really all about kind of the power of the unit in your room. If you have the right guys in there as a whole, then whoever goes out there, you feel good about.
In terms of special teams, the opportunity for special teams during a game can be very few at times, but yet one mistake in special teams can potentially decide the entire ball game. As you and your staff try to, choose the guys that are going to, get the opportunity to play on the respective different teams, what do you all in the final analysis come down to? I mean, essentially, most of those guys just have to be football players, do they not? Because you're grabbing from all kinds of different areas, trying to find the best 11 guys, I'm sure, for each unit.
For sure. That's the thing where it's kind of like what I touched on earlier about a couple places for younger players to show that they belong in Division I football. And it's not like, oh, well, okay, you get a cookie, you get a cookie, you get a cookie. No, you have to earn it. You have to earn it through practice. It's not like, oh, well, I'm just going to show up and I'll play special teams. No, like that's not how it's going to go. And I'm very fortunate that Coach Newberry puts a lot of onus and puts a lot of emphasis on special teams, because it's really easy to coach that when the head coach is in your meeting and he's totally aware of your personnel. He's totally aware of your scheme. He's aware of those things. And the best thing is our kids see that. So there's total buy-in. So those have been really positive things. So for us, you do those drill work, and then from the drill work comes the 11 on 11 type of things. And then a little bit of it is gut, a little bit of it is conversation with the other guys on the staff, kind of here and there, 2 cents on it, whether it's a Mickey Okitis, whether it's a David Cole, whether it's a Brenton Wimberly, whether it's an Eric Lewis, an RB Green, so on and so forth. You get all their inputs on it. And then from there, you're kind of building out your big four special teams units based upon everybody in the room.
How do you explain the phenomenon of a 6 foot, 275 pound guy going down on special teams and thriving? And oh, by the way, he's also very good at a nose guard as well. Is that the perfect description of a football player right there?
Well, it's obviously an Ohio guy right there. He's a Northeast Ohio guy, so he's ready to go.
Ready to go there.
Yeah, Landon such a, like, on a team full of really good dudes and solid human beings, like it might be a knockdown, drag out fight to find someone better than Landon Robinson.
You last one for me. There's legislation out there right now in the coaching community, and obviously you spent time as a quality control guy, that would allow potentially quality control coaches to be a little more hands-on and coach the athletes on the field. What's the biggest benefactor if they were to allow that, especially with the size of the rosters that you all coach, having those extra individuals and what those people might be able to add to the staff on a even more on a daily basis?
It's a good question. I think most of it would just be, based upon, now we obviously get more coaches already just because of our number, which is fantastic. So I think obviously, your player to coach ratio would continue to go up, which would allow more feedback, which would allow more guys chasing kids on the field. It's like my Fitbit tells me, A, I need more sleep, and B, you need to work out a little bit more because you're trying to run around on the field and you can't do it anymore as I'm chasing those kids around. So it wouldn't be a bad thing to have a couple other guys, but it's a pretty good situation right now here at Navy in terms of, having a couple extra coaches just because of our number of players.
Do you think it dramatically affects player development and perhaps the younger players who don't necessarily, quote, get the same attention maybe as the top 2 or 3 guys on the depth chart, but do you think it would dramatically help player development on rosters?
You know what? I think probably some, but the number one player development piece, I am like, you won't find someone who's bigger into strength and conditioning. You have to get those guys bigger, faster, and stronger. You have to take that high school player and transition him to being a Division I football player, because those offensive linemen, you're just not playing against them in high school, and with that comes play strength. And one of the guys who I think does a fantastic job is about kind of recruiting his profile and having them walk, jog, sprint, kind of in that order, is a guy like Jared Hall. So you look at it like our defensive line, and those guys come in as freshmen, and they're being taught how to walk, and they're working their tail off in the weight room, and then they start jogging, and Coach Hall gets his hands on them in spring, and then they start continuing to progress, and then all of a sudden you're like, Justin Reed, man, holy cow! Like, this dude is out there. We had a senior captain go down last year, and Justin Reed just came out and played his butt off. So, I think that part is, and Coach Newberry really does a good job stressing that to each position coach, is you want to continually develop your entire room. And it's not just those quote unquote starters that are playing. You have to have a legitimate plan for what happens if.
Awesome. Appreciate the answer. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Give Riley his proper credit. It's 3.93 in aerospace engineering.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good.
Hey, Jaxson, good to see you.
Hey, how's it going?
Great. So you have an opportunity here in the spring to try to, solidify a spot atop the depth chart. Can you talk about the importance of making the most of this spring camp?
No doubt. Yeah, this spring has been huge. I know I've been moved around a lot in the past, and playing striker now, it's going to be my home, and I just feel really thankful to have had X being under his wing a little bit, as well as Gibby. Definitely last fall took huge jumps on just learning the defense, basically, and that's because of them. They kind of taught me on where to be, and so now I'm trying to put that towards this upcoming fall, and it starts with the spring. So I'm excited. Right now, just playing striker, I already feel different, and knowing the defense, feeling like I'm playing faster, knowing where my help is, having good hand placement, that type of stuff. But this spring is huge for sure.
So it's great. You did not play many snaps on defense, right? You mostly special teams last year?
Correct.
Okay. So what did you feel you needed to improve upon in order to become the starter? I mean, you talked about watching Gibbons and McDonald last year, what did you feel you needed to do better to where they could trust you to start at this position?
It would definitely just probably be playing into the confines of the defense, doing my job. Being a young player and having a little bit of taste of success, I'd get greedy at times and try to make every single play, and just learning with X and Gibby and Coach Brown, just that you're not going to make every play, and just to do your job, and that a good defense is going to know where its help is at. And I don't think I knew that as a sophomore. And so I'd run around and try to make plays like it was high school. And that's just not the case here. So I just doing your job and knowing where your help is, the plays are going to come towards to you. So that's the biggest difference.
Did you feel like have you added a considerable amount of weight since being moved from safety to try to be able to hold up in the box against blockers and whatnot?
Yeah, I did. So I gained this offseason, I think 7 pounds, 8 pounds. So I'm at a good playing weight, I think, where I can, definitely be in the box, be physical, and then also still cover people.
So, Bergeson, I think we were just talking to Coach Brown. He said he moved to striker at some point last season, I think. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
And is most everyone else new to the position?
Yeah, so we got a couple new guys in the room. Got Jaxson, he moved safety as well, and some younger guys. But yeah, this striker role is kind of a lot of safeties have came into the striker room, which we love, because it's a testament to yourself. Like, if you get moved from safety, that means you're a football player. So it's a compliment. Definitely got to be an athlete to play striker.
Well, can you talk about, obviously all of you are learning how to play that position since you did not start out there. You probably have a little bit of head start on the other guys. Do you still try to help them out and help them, learn the position, even though you're competing against them?
Oh, yeah, for sure. We got a good room, and even though we're all competing, we're all for each other, and we know it's just iron sharpening iron. And I think just X and Gibby really helped me out. So I feel like I kind of can be confident in teaching the younger guys now, because I feel like I know the defense, and it's a great feeling to have. Once you know the defense, you can help others, but it's all healthy competition. So I'm going to help people out if they need it.
What can you say about guys like Riley and Jaxson? What do they bring to the table?
Oh, I would say they bring good competitiveness. We had a little fourth quarter competition where we would have like late runs in the year, in the early winter, where we would compete as a group, and they would the strength coaches would really harp on the details and finishing through the line, and our group dominated in most of those drills. So that kind of just shows you what type of room we have, what kind of players we have. They're players who are going to compete no matter what. They're big into the details, both of them, and then they're just going to finish.
You're muted, Wax.
What do you think Navy expects out of the striker?
Definitely to set the edge, to make plays. The striker is a pretty interesting position here, because you're going to be put in position to make a lot of plays, whether that be coming off the edge, getting a sack, dropping into the flat, into underneath coverage. So you got to be athletic to play striker in this defense, and you got to set the edge and force everything back inside to your inside linebackers.
So we obviously saw a few years ago that John Marshall turned this into a playmaking position with sacks and tackles for loss. And then the striker will have an opportunity to blitz off the edge and is asked to rush the passer and be disruptive in the backfield. Do you feel that that's something you can do, and are you looking forward to having those opportunities?
Totally. I can't wait. I think I can dominate this position, and it's a great defense. I mean, Coach Volker's a defensive wizard. He's going to put me in the right position to make the right play, and I feel confident that I'm going to make it this year. So I'm super excited. I love the group. I love Coach Brown. love being around the guys, and it's a great position. I really feel like I found a home in the striker room.
So you all, Coach Brown coaches both the Raiders and the Strikers. Are you in the room all together?
Yes, we are. Yeah, Strikers, Raiders.
Do you think that's valuable to be able to, know what that other side linebacker, other outside linebacker is doing?
Totally. It's to know the whole defense. We talk about trying to become that 4-dimensional player where not only your own job, but the people's job around you, and then to know what the defense is doing on the other side of the ball, that's even better. And then once you get all that, you can start focusing on the offense. So those are the 4 dimensions that we're always trying to it's like a race to become a vet. That's something Coach Brown always says. Just to be a professional, you got to put in the film hours and not only know your job, but know the job of those around you.
So in times when you all have gone good on good, starters versus starters with the offense and scrimmage situations, have you been able to make some plays that give you confidence that, yes, I can play this striker position? Or, you got to make the plays in practice before you can make them in the games.
No doubt. And honestly, the biggest thing I think is just going 1-0. I feel like that's something I was kind of worried about my youngster year, just making the big plays, trying to just not selfish, but wanting to everyone wants to do well. I still want to do well now, but not just consuming myself and me making the play, just letting them come to me. So right now I'm just taking it a play at a time. I'm just trying to do my job. And if that happens, if it's my time to make a play, I'm going to make the play, but I'm not worried about it.
In terms of the overall defense, a lot of returning talent, but your position's one that's unproven, that's lost the top 2 guys. How much is there to prove? There's so many other positions that have returning starters, even backups that are back. In this position, if you're a Navy fan and you look at the depth chart, this is kind of a question mark.
No doubt. We definitely as a group got a lot to prove. I feel like I have a lot to prove for myself, just because last year was not a year for me personally that I wanted to have. But with that being said, it was a year that I grew a lot as a player. I keep referring back to, just not really knowing the defense, where I think that kind of hurt me my sophomore year. So I'm going into this upcoming fall, knowing the defense, feeling confident, and definitely proving that I can be out there, because I know I'm an athlete enough to make the plays. It's just a matter of doing it now. Now I know where to go, and now it's time to make the plays. And it's also like, I'm not going to be that weak link in the chain. Like, we got a stud defense with our coach, and we're going to be a defense that flies around, has a lead eat, and I'm not going to let my position or my position group hold us back.
So how did you get, to know the defense better? Did you spend a lot of time in the film room during the off season?
Yes, and just really listening to Coach Brown. I'm a player who's super competitive. I really wanted it. The one was not questionable at all, but just kind of taking the time and slowing down, not being all over the place, just using my athleticism to my advantage, but not making it a crutch. So sometimes last year I would make some plays based off my athleticism, but I would be in the wrong position. And so it really starts with your eyes. We talk about having good eyes all the time, and that's what I think is going to be my next growth. And this upcoming year is just my eyes have gotten a lot better, and I'm going to make plays off my athleticism, but also because I'm in the right spot at the right time.
So Xavier and Avon haven't graduated yet. Are they around to try to help you along and teach you? They got to be your biggest fans right now.
Oh yeah, totally. I still talk to both those guys pretty often. Gibby is actually TADing for us, so he's going to be with us the upcoming fall. And they're both great guys, like stand up. They, like how you said, like, what do I think of our group? It's because of them. They set the culture for this group. And I know I can go to them whenever I have any questions.